Hey everyone, Christina Semmens with Say Yes to Holiness here, and I am finally back. Um, it has been a whirlwind summer. The last time that I jumped on here, I was just getting ready to go on pilgrimage vacation to Ireland and Scotland, and I touched down at home for literally 6 days. And I was going to jump on here to do a podcast episode, but whatever it was that I was exposed to had me lose my voice. So couldn't very well jump on and talk when I couldn't talk. So I took that as a sign from the Lord that I was to continue to just continue to receive all the many graces that He truly has blessed me with. In fact, the title of this episode is Patient Trust in the Face of Grace Upon Grace, because that is exactly what this summer has been. Uh, the time in Ireland and Scotland with my son was absolutely amazing, not necessarily because of everything that we saw or did, which was wonderful, of course, but because of spending time and being able to develop memories and to be able to really enter into the life of people in Ireland and Scotland. We were very intentional. Uh, we are both golfers, and for those of you who are not, you might not quite understand, the game, or but probably one of the biggest reasons why I love the sport is because you are out in God's beauty and His nature and His creation. And we had been intentional about focusing upon playing golf, links golf, and links golf is different from what most people in the United States would experience, which is parkland golf, as they call it over in the United Kingdom. But the idea of links golf is that the golf course has been formed by the elements itself, by creation, by God. It's right on the coast of whatever sea. We played on the Irish Sea, on the Atlantic Ocean, on the North Sea, and then on the Channel, the not the English Channel, but the Firth of Forth, and Fife, the birthplace of golf in St. Andrews. And the fact was, though, is that I could just share picture upon picture upon picture of just the utter beauty. And many people had prepared us before going. They were like, "Oh, you're just going to get rain. You're going to get cloudy weather all the time. You're never going to see the sun." And that wasn't the case. We had 5 days out of the 17 that we were there that it did rain, but those actually were on touristy days, days that we were out. We're Harry Potter fans, Outlander fans, and doing touristy things. And on those days, it was raining, but uh, each time that we would go out to play golf, it was overcast. It was definitely windy. There were days where the ball literally on the green was oscillating, and you're standing and you're trying to putt, and it's not working. But the fact was is that to be immersed in His nature. So that was probably one of the biggest things of being able to slow down and to truly be a part of God's creation. And golf gives me at least an opportunity to do that, as well as when I go out and run and bike. Anyway, as I said, I came back. We came back in July, and I was here for 6 days. I got some sort of summer cold or laryngitis, whatever it was, and then left for retreat. And this is what I want to kind of focus our food for the head, heart, hands, and feet on today. And it comes from a prayer by Father Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. He was a Jesuit. A lot of people shy away from his work, and for good reason. It's very difficult, his theological work, I should say. And there actually has been a modem put on by the Vatican. It was last renewed in 1981. Desjardins lived and died in the early 20th century. He passed away in 1955. So he was pre Vatican II, and a lot of what he wrote about theologically was broken open more so at the Second Vatican Council. And in fact, John Paul II and Benedict XVI, as well as Pope Francis, has referred to his work at different times. And so a lot of people have come to know his work. The Divine Milieu is probably the most recognizable that you might have. But what I want to share with you is a prayer. He wrote beautiful poetry. And during my retreat, I came across some of his poems again. And his poems are not theological. They're not teaching anything of the faith, but rather they serve as points and jumping off points for us to reflect on our own life. And so the one that I want to focus upon is one that is entitled Patient Trust. And I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to focus on four different things for our food for the head, heart, hands, and feet, with a little bit of my reflection and hopefully some hope. I hope some good resolutions for you to take into your life as we're getting ready to head back into summer, at the end of summer, and head back into the academic year. So, without further ado, let's do that. Patient trust. Above all, trust in the slow work of God. We are quite naturally impatient in everything to reach the end without delay. We should like to skip the intermediate stages. We are impatient of being on the way to something unknown, something new. And yet, it is the law of all progress that it is made by passing through some stages of instability, and that it may take a very long time. And so I think it is with you. Your ideas mature gradually. Let them grow. Let them shape themselves without undue haste. Don't try to force them on as though you could be today what time, that is to say, grace and circumstances acting on your own goodwill, will make of you tomorrow. Only God could say what this new spirit gradually forming within you will be. Give our Lord the benefit of believing that His hand is leading you, and accept the anxiety of feeling yourself in suspense and incomplete. So, the first thing that I want to focus upon, our food for the head, is the reality that your ideas mature gradually, and that we have to let them grow. We have to let them shape themselves. Without undue haste. And this is something that I've struggled with over the last 5 years because I wrote my book, Say Yes, Discovering Purpose, Peace, and Abundance in Daily Life, and it was published in 2020. Subsequently, since then, and as I was finishing that book and was getting ready to publish it, already was starting on the next one, which has been entitled The Catholic Leadership Puzzle, building a parish community that saves souls, makes saints, and transforms the world. And I've been working on it now for 5 years, and I've been struggling to finish it. And of course, had massive life challenge in the middle of that with Paul and his diagnosis of lung cancer, and then accompanying him, and then his passing last November. And so, in the midst of all of that, it's been, okay, Lord, do you want me to still be doing this? Et cetera, et cetera. And but what I've also come to see is that in the process of this 5 years, God has been using those circumstances to help my ideas mature gradually. He's allowed them to grow, and he's allowed them to be shaped by circumstance and also by the growth of the idea, and without undue haste. And I think this is probably one of the biggest things that the time that I had in Ireland and Scotland, and then subsequently on my retreat, was just the reiteration of the reality that we need to stop moving at light speed. Does that mean we don't get a lot of things done? No, that isn't what I'm saying, but rather that we're intentional about what it is that we apply ourselves to, and also that we allow things to happen gradually. We don't have to get the things checked off our to do list immediately. If they're not getting done, many times it might be because the Lord is going, no, not yet. Not yet. It's not ready. It's like a good wine. You know, you have to let it ferment. You have to let the grapes ferment, or a good bourbon if you enjoy good bourbon like my husband did. So the fact is that we need to understand in our heads that the pace of life allows us to be able to have our ideas mature gradually, and for them to be shaped without undue haste, and for us to accept that and to not rail against it. And this is something that I think many times we really struggle with. I know I do. And probably one of the biggest things is that we have to simply trust in the slow work of God. And this is our food for the heart, that trusting in the slow work of God can be very difficult, particularly if we're going through a transition. A good friend of mine who I saw, after my retreat, before coming home, I stopped and saw friends. And that was something where he's like, I hate this word transition. I'm like, well, what should we call it? And he wasn't quite sure, what we should call it. But I think all of us rail against change, and a part of it is because we want security. We want to feel that we're in control of life. We delude ourselves, don't we? In fact, this weekend's gospel reading, Sunday gospel reading, is about the man who had a wonderful harvest, and he had so much that he was going to tear down his barns, put up bigger ones, and then he was going to eat, drink, and be merry, and rest, right? And, God says, you fool, your life will be, asked of you tonight. And who are all these things going to be going to? And, Jesus is using this parable in order to remind us to have our mind and our heart on the right things. And this is where we have to trust in the slow work of God. Our journey is a lifetime journey. And our getting from A to B is going to take longer than we think. For example, my own grieving journey. It's something of where it's going to take longer than I think. I joke with people and say that entering into my third. The way my life has been is that it's been broken into literally almost like, perfect thirds of years. And I'm just entering the third of my life, in which my vocation is as widow. I'm still a mom, but it's something of where the Lord was speaking, to me, and I'm a Star Wars fan, so this he knew this would resonate, of where he was like, "Patience, Padawan, patience." Padawan being a new learner, and it just struck me because it's like, yeah, in this part of my life, I am a Padawan. I am a new learner in many things, but I continue to learn. That doesn't mean all of the experience and all of what has come before is of no use, but rather it is to be built upon. And this is a new phase of growth. And again, it might take a really long time. And this is our food for the hands. Um, that it may take a really long time. Um, you know, and this is where I think our frustration might come, with like our growth in virtue or changing habits or losing weight or getting into shape or any kind of project, is that it takes a lot longer than we think it's going to, but we have to persevere. We have to continue that journey. We have to be faithful. In fact, um, a great quote by St. Mother Teresa of Calcutta was, God does not ask for success, he asks for faithfulness. And this is what we have to remind ourselves of. We're getting ready to, again, enter into a new academic year, a new cycle. For those of us, who have kids or that are going off to school or college, or it's a whole new academic session. It's a whole new year of commitments and activities and different things. And again, the Lord asks for our faithfulness. He asks for us to be faithful to the things and the people, especially that He's placed in our lives, to love them, to care for them the best that we can as He is forming us, as He is transforming us. And so, I'm reminded of the fact that St. Paul has this awesome conversion experience. He's literally blinded by the Lord on his way to Damascus. He's healed by Ananias, and he immediately goes into the synagogue and begins to proclaim Jesus is Lord. And we hear that and we forget that even though he went into the synagogue and was proclaiming Jesus, fact was is that Jesus then said, "No, not yet, not yet. Go out into the desert, spend time with me, come and learn from me." And St. Paul did. He went into the desert, literally and figuratively, and but we don't really hear about him until Barnabas is prompted by the Holy Spirit to go find him, and then brings him to enter into mission work. And he brings them to Antioch, and that's where they are first known as Christians. But then Paul's missionary journeys and all of his work really takes off, but it was after 3 years. 3 years where we don't really hear anything about what's going on with St. Paul. But Barnabas was open to the Spirit saying, "Hey, go find this guy. I got great things in store for him, and I need you to go and invite him into the work." And this is what we have to remember, is that we might not see the fruits. Barnabas might not have necessarily, he heard of Paul's journey, but when he went, he didn't necessarily know what the fruits were going to be of, asking Paul to enter into missionary work with him. Ananias, who was the one who healed through Jesus, of course, through the Holy Spirit, who healed Paul of his blindness, he had to have the courage to go, "Okay, Lord, I'm going to trust you on this, and I'm going to go and I'm going to heal this guy." But then Ananias had no idea at that time who Paul was going to become. We never know how our small acts of faithfulness are going to impact the larger world, those ripples that happen. And it comes from us being faithful, not successful, but from being faithful. So continue to be faithful in all the small things. Trust that God, is working slowly. And then, finally, and this is our food for the feet. Meditate on this phrase. Accept the anxiety of feeling yourself in suspense and incomplete. If I got a chance to sit down and talk with Father Desjardins, I would be like, I would have preferred the word tension here, and accept the tension of feeling yourself in suspense and incomplete. I know for me right now in my life, this really describes almost perfectly. You know, this tension, this anxiety, and it's not an anxious thing. I'm definitely at peace. That's why I said I prefer tension. But this idea of I am myself, but I'm not quite myself. I'm not I'm waiting, you know? So, that's probably the bigger thing. It's this, you're in suspense, you know something's coming, and you're not quite who it is that you know the Lord is making of you, but to be comfortable with this. You know, in our world today, we talk about, become, comfortable with being uncomfortable. But I think in those moments, in those times, and you might be going through a time right now, and there might not even be a quote big transition going on right now. But if you're feeling right now like you're in between, that you're kind of you're yearning for something, you know that something is more, but you're not quite there, and you're kind of waiting, enter into that. The Lord is there. I can attest He is with you, just as He's with me. He is with us each and every day. And it's only God, referring back to Father Desjardins' poem here, only God can say what this new spirit gradually forming within you will be. Um, so let's believe, let's trust, and let's have that patient trust in his slow work as we are moving forward, day by day. So, what might be some resolutions that we can take from our conversation today? Well, probably one of the first ones is grow in patience. It's us practicing patience that we will grow in patience. And how might we do that? Well, there's all sorts of ways. We are live in an impatient world. We are not going to argue about that. We all know that everybody wants the skip or the hurry button or the easy button. They want to be there already. The great phrase of supposedly kids on a road trip. Are we there yet? And all of us have that inside of us. Are we there yet? And no, we're not. On the spiritual journey, no, we're not. We're not there yet until we get home to our Lord. And that's at the end of our lives. So until our lives end, we're not there yet. And so for us to be patient, to grow in patience, choose to do some things. A resolution could be choose to do something that you know you tend to get impatient with, and set a timer for yourself. It could be something as simple as putting away groceries. Maybe you get impatient with that process of having to put things away and different things. And maybe in that instance of like putting away groceries, you say, Lord, let me enter into this present moment with you, and you help me put away the groceries. Help me be patient with the daily tasks. And there's a myriad of different things that we could do that way. Or it could be that, choose to stand in line. Instead of having Walmart deliver groceries to your door if you have access to that, instead go to Walmart and stand in line, and be patient with that process. All sorts of things. So that would be one resolution that I would suggest to you is practice patience. The other would be to practice faithfulness. I am currently using Hallow and with Father Timothy Gallagher and doing the 30-day spiritual exercises challenge. And I love the spiritual exercises. In fact, that's one of the things that came out of my retreat is the Lord making it very clear he doesn't want just me to gain benefit from doing the spiritual exercises and living in Ignatian spirituality, in addition to my Apostles of Interior Life, charism. but rather he is inviting me to go and to find formation so that can be a spiritual director of the exercises, so I can lead other people through the exercises. And I'll keep you up to date on how that goes. I found a couple of programs, and I'm applying to them, and we'll see what the Lord has in store in His time. So I have to be patient with that. But to be faithful, and the fifth rule, I believe it's the fifth rule of Saint Ignatius in the spiritual journey, is in a time of desolation, make no changes. So, in other words, if you're struggling with something, remain faithful to it, even if you're struggling. So, even if you feel like the Lord is far away from you, if you have committed to getting up and doing morning prayer, you keep remaining faithful to getting up and doing morning prayer. So this is what my resolution suggestion to you is remain faithful to the spiritual practices that you have in place. If you are supposed to go to confession, if you've made it a resolution for yourself that you go to confession every month or every 6 weeks or every 3 months, go do that. Remain faithful to that. If you have said that you're going to go and exercise, if you're going to go for a walk each night after dinner or 3 times a week or whatever it is, remain faithful to it. Don't deviate from it. And that's not just in times of spiritual desolation, but it's about us growing in faithfulness and persevering. A former pastor of mine once said, "The true test of the spiritual life is whether or not we persevere," and that is what we need to continue to do. So the final resolution, is how can I accept this anxiety, this tension of feeling myself in suspense and incomplete? Make an act of faith or act of trust, and say, Jesus, I trust in you. Or it could be, Lord, I have faith that you are with me and that you love me and that you care for me. Um, but to do an act of faith or an act of trust, in order to help you be able to become more comfortable with all of that. So I want to say thank you to everybody for all of your patience during my absence. And you're going to see more of me, particularly writing. I will complete the Catholic Leadership Puzzle book. That's something that the Lord confirmed for me, as well as doing some more writing, some more gospel reflections, in conjunction with like Women of the New Evangelization on their blog. I'll be doing a couple of gospel reflections in the weeks ahead, and other different opportunities. But I'll keep you up to speed on those things as they come, and I look forward to continuing this journey with you, to remaining faithful. And this is my resolution: is remain faithful to those practices that I have been doing, especially in helping, what I hope, helping inspire and accompany all of those of you out there, and encouraging you to become the saint that God did create you to be. God bless everybody, and talk to all of you again soon.